bushfire. Actwell and how do you say that?
Anketel.
I've never heard of that place.
No, I don't know. Must be a new suburb.
It's somewhere near Thomas Road and Kwinana Freeway though. 90 firefighters are on the scene.
There was movement at the station because the word had got around. The colt from old Regret had got away. The French guy cooked it up.
Tonight's live chat is brought to you by poetry.
By poetry?
Yeah.
Banjo Patterson. The boy stood on the burning deck. His feet were nearly on fire. Not much actually. We had for mid-afternoon meal, because that's when we were hungry, a chicken schnitzel and some chips, real slack. And tonight I bought a couple of those veggie patty burgers, you know, the round ones from Coles, a couple of bucks each.
And I got a bargain with Cadbury
Go and get them.
cake rolls.
Go and show it, go tease it, it's chocolate. We had the flooring guy come here today, and it's a bit of an F-up. We had a difference of 10 mil between what he should be doing and what they've finished to level that. So we have a major issue at the moment with the levels.
Look at the price of that. Tell me when you can see, hun. Oh, God, right in my face. No, that's just dark.
It's clear.
Oh, here we go. Look at that, Mel.
$0.10. Just imagine a nice hot coffee. Nice hot coffee, and then a couple of them.
And mini rolls, like a mini jam roll covered in chocolate.
Yep. Yeah, we've sort of been off kilter because all the work we're doing work behind the scenes. And we just eat when we're hungry. And sometimes I still insist, it's me mainly, because Mr. Ganger would have a packet of chips, a bit of cheese, and chocolate, and she'd say, I'm full.
A toast or a 2-minute noodle.
But I make sure we knock a heap of veggies down as during the week.
And actually, I ate a bowl of veggies, but as far as a big cooked meal, I'm not really...
Yeah, she found them for a change. It was her, definitely. She came up all laughing and giggling. Look what I got, look what I got.
I got about 6 packets.
I'll show you the issue that the flooring guy pointed out today. You see the raised floor in that area? That's the old kitchen. Well, there's a 45 mil board, and the board should have only been 30, which affects the doorway, affects the bedrooms, affects the French doors and height. And our builder's gone very quiet. And I know what needs to be done, but the missus is not happy with the drop in the door height, so they're going to have to show you that door again. Down the bottom of that door, there, it would have been okay. It would have only been about 5 or 6 mil. No, they haven't fixed it yet. There is a major issue.
It's a major issue, Mel.
If they drop the floor in the old kitchen, it means we have a drop from the old house into the new kitchen,
But
which we don't want.
the drop is a ridiculous drop. You either have a step drop or you have no drop as far as I'm concerned, because a little drop will trip people. You know what I mean, Mel?
So we have an issue.
I mean, we've both been coming up trying to have ideas, like we'll be calm, let the builder come and talk, we'll be calm, Seeds will say, no, and then Seeds will say some of the ideas that we've come up and I have to compromise, but if it saves time and money and they fix it, I wanted carpet in the bedrooms. It could end up being floorboards through there. Will I be happy? No. Can I live with it? Yes. Yeah, exactly, Mel. And, you know, and I've got 2 sisters that are useless. I've got to tell you, if there is a 1 mil incline in the road, they will trip up it.
They trip over a grate.
They trip over, yeah. They're useless. And they will be
I'm
visiting.
not paying any more for their stuff-ups that they will be doing. So,
No, I'm not paying up for their stuff up, but I don't know, like, I mean, Seeds always wanted floorboards through the whole house anyway. If we had done that to start with, yes, we would have had to pay for the floorboards. I totally agree with that. But my issue is, where if that's the way to go to save all other issue, because Seeds explained to me how they can fix things, so hopefully, if any, there would be no little...
Look, I mean, it just boils down to they're going to have to fix it, and it's going to be complicated. When I sat down with the floor and we both worked out we could taper the studs underneath the floor to suit, but that's a lot of extra work and there's a lot of money that he would be charging extra to do it. And I said, well, and the problem is the floor, but we have another problem. If that floor is dropped, we have a step off between the old house and the new. And that was never what we wanted.
No, I don't know what. Good morning, VMAC. I don't know how much of the conversation you heard, VMAC, but yeah.
Hello, VMAC.
We're not happy with our builders
Show
right
VMAC
now.
chocolate.
VMAC, yeah, wait till you see the bargain I got.
VMAC sitting there drooling just at the mention of the word chocolate. How did your thingy go? Wasn't a toboggan thing, but it was a get together with friends. Go okay? Lots of food prepared by the VMAC. $10 for a big pack of chocolate caramel cake bars.
They're little cakes covered in chocolate, VMAC.
You could tease about it.
Caramel, 10 cents, and they're still in date. Well, yeah, so they've stuffed up with our floor, VMAC, basically.
It's a level issue, but it'd be interesting to see what they come up with. What I am not doing is paying any more for their stuff up. And skating, it's funny, isn't it? I've got other friends in Canada that are telling me in some areas they're not getting snow. Areas where they normally get snow. And saying that it's like 8 degrees, 9 degrees, it's like...
Oh, that's good. They're already like that, so I can freeze them like that.
Yeah, let me have one. You don't need a lot of chocolate.
I was showing
Actually,
you.
there's a bit of weight in that surprised me.
But this is the cat, I can't really see, eh?
That is the chocolate.
Can you see it? They're cute little bars. I got 6 packets.
It's chocolate full of chocolate cake.
That one's caramel that you just had.
Is it?
We're eating chocolate in front of everyone. I'm glad they're wrapped individual.
They're okay. Like I say, every time I have cake, I think I've got to have a coffee.
Yum. Can you see the paper wrapping?
About 3 hours from now, she'll be on the floor in the lounge, chocolate dribbling from her mouth, wrappers all around her. These are about the same size as a Twinkie, and these ones probably would
I reckon then we'll have one of
constitute
them.
just about being a Twinkie. You see the cream centre, cream and jam in this one? But that's pretty similar to a Twinkie. But there are, how many bars in there?
There's 5.
5 bars, works out at 2 cents a bar.
It's an odd amount really, isn't it? Usually you have 6 or 4. Can you hear the paper rustling?
So the missus was outside sandpapering all the nasty little corner bits on that teak bench today. You could always tell when she's not happy because there's like a growling face on her.
Oh, there is not.
Everything all right? Yeah, it's fine. There you go.
Can't really
All right.
see, it's dark.
Nearly finished? No. Okay, I'll walk away.
I do things and I just concentrate.
I did about an hour and a half this morning. The sun was just too hot. It was beaming down on me. Hello, Buttercup. We have chocolate. Lots of it.
You're going to like these ones. More than me.
Thoughts. You can show them what it looks like inside. Stick it in front of the camera. Just move it down a bit. There you go. That's better. So like a chocolate Twinkie.
Hang on, hold it there. Whoop.
Mini rolls. 2 cents a packet.
Yum.
She doesn't even know that she's just eating them.
Man, I would have been doing the same thing, Mac. I would have been pushing them out the way.
I don't know about celery and chocolate.
I would, well, if it's there, I would try it.
So we're going to have an interesting meeting, I think, tomorrow with the builder. And I will mention just a quick sentence. Whatever you do, there's not going to be a cheap fix to this.
And I've told seeds to be calm.
And I will, for a period of time, and then I will pull out of my suitcase an imitation VMAC and say to my builder, someone needs to talk to you. Say hello.
They're pretty rich.
They are actually.
Nice.
We know what one of the grandkids will be doing when they get here every day. Be a snack.
I have to go and get...
No worries, Mel.
So you're saying the text before me?
What they did wrong is that they had to pull the old floorboards out of the old kitchen, which is over there, and they had to reset a level to match the rest of the house to put floorboards down. What they've done, in my calculation, is reset the floorboards thinking their resetting height is the end height, when in fact a 19 mil, or nearly 3/4 of an inch, timber beams will be going across the top. That's the error. But because they ripped out the old floor joist and put in new floor joist and put this board over the top, we have an issue. They either do nothing with this and adjust the rest of the house, which is going to be dollars, or they rip this all up, and then we're going to have a problem of a height issue of 10 mil, which is about half an inch, from the old house to the new. And I'm not happy with that.
And the doors, because like I said...
No, it'll be an issue, just the fact that it's a drop.
Yeah, and these doors either way.
And those as well.
Yeah, the 2 doors. And like I said, a slight drop, you either, if you got to step down or up, you either make it a step height, not this piddly little mill bit where people will trip over it.
So there's about 10 metres between
Yeah, exactly.
our
mate.
bedroom door. It's 30 feet between our bedroom door and the edge of the new kitchen floor. They can what's called taper, which means the gluts they put underneath start off at 45, but will end up at 30. So 15 mil drop over 30 feet is okay. That's a solution, but it's still a problem.
And it basically comes all back to the beginning when the concrete was poured.
I don't know what it means change the podcast. It means
Oh yeah, to shift podcast something else. Listen, podcast is like we'll listen to Ricky Gervais.
but not me.
No, because we went offline. No,
Yeah,
it's not
you're
called
right.
Buttercup.
Did you get the one about the spider mill?
About the what?
Remember, I was just joking. I said
Oh
there
yes.
was a lady driving to the airport, and there's
Yeah.
a tickle on the back of her car.
Yeah, we listen to podcasts, Mel. He knows what it is.
Yeah. I thought you meant me as a podcast. I don't do them, I don't think. I always think in life, when there's a problem, there's just a solution waiting to be found out. But what I won't accept is a cheap fix, like he says, oh, we'll just do this. And I'll be saying, no, that's not what we paid you for. I mean, without talking out of school, we're spending over 300,000, and if you spend that sort of money, you want to get what you pay for. As far as houses go in Australia, that's not a great deal of money, but it's still money that we're spending. Yes, she was. So there will be a solution, but it's not one that suits them, if you like.
Yeah, I was telling Seeds off, telling scary stories while you're driving. It's not good. Yes, I know. There's never a problem, there's only solutions. And again, we're coming up with the solution. I mean, the bill's been pretty good. The builders are such nice guys. People check with us.
No, you mean the trades?
The trades check
Trades
with
been
us.
good. The builder's
yeah.
never here. And if you don't have a builder that's here, that means things get done and then people think they're doing the right thing and then they leave. And then the builder has a go at them when in fact he should be here.
Yes, all that was done before the concrete was laid, BMAC. They have to by law, there's standards here. The compacting part had to be sprayed before they laid the concrete.
How was your little begging party?
Bogan.
Oh, bogan
She's
party.
talking to BMAC.
Ugg boots, cold beer, t-shirt, tracky pants. The Canadian way.
Well, Buttercup, I can tell you now, it's not going to be the cheapest solution. It's going to be the best solution that works for everybody. Well, it's not going to work for everybody, but it's okay. It's like Seeds come up with another different way about, and it will have to be floorboards in the bedroom. Well, I wanted carpet, but how Seeds explained it, yes, I would be unhappy, but I could live with it if it was floorboards put there. I'll just buy myself a nice bearskin rug for my side of the bed.
So was it a topless skating party, Lee-Mac? Was it, Sinjane? Remember the old drink Sinjane in the old 70s?
Yeah, I know
Glam
you.
Beauty?
I know you were back, but honestly, we had to spray. We did. They weren't allowed to lay the concrete until the guy came and sprayed this hard compacted sand, eh? It was a bit funny actually.
Which one?
Remember when the guy came and sprayed the sand, the bit that had been compacted before they laid the concrete?
Well, that's just pesticide.
Yeah. But VMAC, you're right. I do spray for all that because yes, we do get creepy crawlies through here.
It's funny, Mel, you know the story. I mean, if I went outside with a torch tonight, I would easily half fill a bucket of spiders. Easy. But they don't bother us. It's just the thought of spiders that scare people. If we have spiders land on us, we're sitting on the veranda and the one will come down, you just brush it off. I don't think many people are, well, obviously, those that are scared of spiders are scared in Australia, but most people just go, bloody thing. And most people have a pet spider in the house.
Like Daddy Longlegs. You used to have Daddy Longlegs, VMAC. I mean, I don't know if you have a lot of spiders over there, but Daddy Longlegs, yeah, I'm with you, VMAC. I'm not that keen on them, but I will leave Daddy Longlegs because they're good spiders.
And what did I do at Alice Springs? Well, I grew up in the bush too, in Australia, and I used to play with snakes. Bandy-bandies, dugongs, tiger snakes. I didn't know they were poisonous. Pick them up, play with them, tease them, they'd try and strike, I'd sort of dive out of the way. And one bloke said, "You see that black and yellow spider you're playing with?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "That can kill you." "Oh, really?" He was
oh my God, Mel.
Ranger.
You're a nut doing that.
Yeah, redbacks. I mean, I got bitten when I was about 18 as a tyre fitter. I was checking the inside of a tyre. Guy brought a tyre and he said, "I want you to fit that on my spare." I said, "No worries." So I'm checking to see if there's any punches, whatever. And I got a little nick on my arm and I'm thinking, oh, it must have been a bit of wire. And then crawled out a female redback. I thought, geez. So I washed it off, I cleaned it. My arm got a little bit sore, numb, and then really swelled up. About an hour later, I went down to the hospital and the guy said, "No, you'll be right." I said, "If you're going to be a real crook, you'd have been crook in the first 10 minutes. I said, "Oh, okay." Next day, it felt like someone had hit me with a sledgehammer.
My mum had a lot of near misses taking rubbish out 'cause we lived on acreage, and she used to have to like go down a step or two to put the rubbish out. And because living on acreage, bushland, whatever, always a damn black snake curled up near the step, and she was stepping down the step, and lucky the snake fit into the garbage bag. If Mum didn't have that garbage bag, it would have been her leg.
Now, I suppose the only thing I've ever been scared of in Australia is right out of side angle, you wouldn't think of it. But we used to go shooting for a couple of roos every month to feed the dogs.
Oh God, Mel.
And we're up in Darwin out at Kakadu, Kakadu Park, which we're allowed to shoot. We had a licence to only take a couple of roos a month, that's all we did. And it was getting a bit dark and we didn't see any roos. And then we heard this through the bush, stomp, stomp, stomp. It was about 1,000-pound water buffalo, male. Well, I climbed up the nearest tree I could get, and my brother-in-law at the time, he climbed up the nearest trees to get, and this thing stomped around and was banging into the trees, letting us know with uncertain terms that we weren't welcome. By about 9 o'clock, an hour and a half up in the tree, my brother-in-law was about 20 metres away in the tree, and he said, "You getting down?" I said, "You get down first." I said, "Can you hear anything?" I said, "Nah." I said, "He might just be standing still though." So we got down very carefully, made sure we were right next to the access to get back up the tree. And our weapons we'd left on the ground, we picked them up. And I'm not kidding you, it looked like some old Italian spaghetti western. I walked forwards, he walked backwards for about 2 kilometres, very slowly. And I said, I've got a 303 and you've got a 762. If you hit this buffalo in the head, it'll bounce off him. Why don't we just run? Last 100 metres, we ran. Got home, was asked the question, "Where's the roos?" Oh, we didn't get any. Hour and a half in a bloody tree. Mind you, if you've ever seen a water buffalo, big bugger, up close, you'd be doing the same thing. They're very territorial, particularly a male. He must have had like half a dozen females. Even though I had no amorous delights thinking about them, you probably thought, you buggers are coming here trying to get my women, so I'm going to kill you. They are huge. Water buffalo are really big. So that's the only thing that's ever scared me in my country, because I know it wouldn't have thought twice about stomping me to death.
Oh yeah, when the seal rolled you.
Oh yeah, but I mean, I thought it was a shark.
And the shark near your leg.
Yeah, I don't.
Oh, come on,
I
there was
die for hip. Sharks are fine.
You've freaking got cat lives.
No, I have a great deal of respect for things in the ocean because I don't live there. They do.
Yeah, I know, but that didn't stop that shark coming round your leg. Oh yeah, I'll toss you one. Be yum with the coffee.
That's what I said there, mate. Well, I had one, but I'm thinking it'd be nice to have had a coffee with it. I've been with crocs. They don't worry me, as long as you don't go in the water. Again, it's their territory. Sharks. Dingoes, you've got to be a bit wary about dingoes. They're about, if you imagine not a big German Shepherd, but medium size, that's about the size of a dingo. But some are very friendly. Probably about when we went over east in 2003, we stopped.
Yeah, right.
And we had half a dozen come up. And didn't pat them, still wary of that. And they just come out and have a sniff, check you out. But there's always a lead dog. And so that dog would come and the others would just be in the background. But trust me, dingoes with small children are not a good combination. No, we don't have wolves, we have wild dogs, as big as wolves. And they're on the vermin unless they get shot. But no wolves as such. No bears, except koalas, and they're not really a bear. Yeah, and it did. A lady went to prison, and then they found a jumpsuit with teeth marks on it, and blood, and she was released. But there's every year there's a place called Fraser Island, which is a fairly big island. It's all wildlife. There are heaps of dingoes there, and people always make the mistake of trying to feed them. And adults have been attacked, kids have been mauled. So don't feed them. Don't feed wildlife in general. The dingo is protected. Even though it can be savage, it's usually because you're in their area. But one thing we haven't had this summer, a lot of, we had one down south in my state early. Guy died from a shark attack, but we've had very few shark attacks this year. It's a worry, Matt, because it's not so much the initial fire, even though they're talking over 1 billion animals have been killed. In populations that we knew the numbers of koala, 50 to 60% have died. But the problem is after the fire, there's nothing to eat. So they are mounting rescue missions to feed these animals best they can. But an ecosystem takes a long time. If it's a quick brush fire that goes through a forest, not a problem. But these have been infernos, so
Yeah.
they have scorched everything, and it will be 6 to 18 months before there's anything to eat. So we're going to lose even more animals, because the only animal that will do any good is things like the dingo and other carnivores. Birds, they'll do okay, because there'll be lots of dead animals everywhere.
Yeah,
But those that need herbivores, that need the feed, there isn't any.
and then they'll come into towns looking for food. It's sort of every action causes a reaction. But I mean, I do go on Facebook sometimes and I follow the weather page, and there's a photographer. It's amazing how some of the bushland already is starting to regenerate. He's got some
Yeah.
amazing
Yeah, it will.
photos
But
already.
the big problem with something like a major fire is the biodiversity, all the balances and checks that different animals have
Yeah.
within that environment means that basically the carnivores, they can run away. Animals that are carnivores can either fly away or run away. Other animals don't. So even in the end, things like dingoes will suffer, birds will suffer, because birds eat things like worms, beetles. You see where I'm going with this? So it's not just we've lost animals, it's the biodiversity, the balance, that will take years to recover. So we're going to have a major mini extinction event. That's one of the scientists here saying we can't avoid this. He said there'll be a rebalance in the biodiversity. The strongest will survive, but then they will also suffer because there's nothing for them to eat. So it's an ongoing issue for at least 18 months, they say, at best 18 months. Because if all the geckos have been wiped out within 100 kilometres, those geckos, in their millions, have gone, used to feed birds. Those birds don't have geckos to eat anymore. The geckos that ate the insects, even if the geckos survived, there's no insects.
There's a lot of animals displaced, so
So
birds will be going
what you're not hearing
elsewhere.
is the long-term damage. A fire is instantaneous and it's devastating, but the effects of it go on and on.
Yeah, this photographer took like some plant growth and stuff growing already out of a burnt tree, and he took one picture of this plant, and sitting on this plant is an ant. And I'm just thinking,
But
the
ants-
world is amazing though, how it can do that.
Well,
like
the thing about fires, ants survive for one very good reason.
underground.
They go underground.
Yeah, I know.
Koalas don't have the ability to burrow.
No, but there's heaps of people helping, organising, looking after. You can adopt a koala.
I mean, the government's gone, "Ooh, we'll throw $5 million at it." I mean, the public will throw hundreds of millions of dollars at it. The government won't do really very little. You know, each people that live in their area know what's been lost. And what you can't do is reintroduce species that have been lost in an area that can't sustain them.
Yes, true, being
So it's a case of the ground covers, the foliage, the vines, the grasses, they all need to grow back before you can even think about it reintroducing anything.
and damn cockroaches will survive. Ticks, fleas, all the things that... But then again, they're all part of the ecosystem. Everything does have a job, so as much as fleas and ticks are annoying...
I mean, one of the strange things, VMAC, is what you're saying is they will survive, but their numbers will drop substantially
the world,
because there's nothing for them to suck blood out of.
yeah, the world can survive with just animals left. The world can survive without us humans, but us humans...
The only species, if it disappeared, would not affect the earth is humans.
Yeah, humans can't survive if we have no animals, if we don't have that ecosystem.
I think, you know, financially,
Well, the people have been,
you can throw a lot of money at a problem, but when the problem needs time, I mean, I know there's billions being raised. Even in our country, we're raising billions, not millions, but billions. And it's a time factor. If the environment is totally destroyed, it has to start again.
I'm laughing at BMAC's comment.
Mosquitoes, he's talking about. Buttercup. So yeah, the scientists are saying this is devastating in more ways than one. Bushfires generally race through the land and they scorch the land. In areas where some of these firefighters are going, what was dense forests with foliage, they're standing there just picking up handfuls of sand. And in that sand there are seeds, don't get me wrong, but it's a time factor because certain animals need certain foliage to survive. Like, you know, lots of them still get eaten, but when they can hide. But if you can imagine all the birds at the moment, and all the carnivorous animals in Australia, they're just feasting on dead animals. They're fine at the moment, but they won't be fine
No.
when that meal no longer exists.
That's what a lot of people don't think of, that every action causes a reaction. And that's what people aren't thinking of, and that's going to bring some of those meat eaters to areas where they're not really wanted.
They will just die off in numbers because there's not
Yeah.
enough food. There will be a natural attrition, but the scientists are saying it will be a decade before you even get anywhere near what you have. Because these fires have not just been widespread, they've been very intense. You know, watching a few of the clips when the guys are standing there saying that firewall is 100 metres high, 300 feet high, and everything in its path is just being incinerated. Trees exploding. And it's like devastating. So losing animals, losing people, losing the biodiversity. Lots of people don't go back to towns that have been wiped out. So towns lose their identity. Where there was 1,000 people in a town, most of the town's been wiped out. You might get a couple hundred people go back. The rest just take their insurance money and go.
Okay, Mel, she's got to go powder her nose.
All right, mate.
Yeah, just glad you're not taking us with you. No,
And she's not live broadcasting.
It's pretty sad, and the volunteers that are trained and these sanctuaries that have taken these animals, they're just amazing.
I would guarantee in Australia there'd probably be now an extra 1 million animals being taken care of by people.
Yes.
That's what's happening right now. They're not waiting for the government to give them money. They're not waiting for some wildlife service to come round. They're just taken on board half a dozen kangaroos, maybe a couple of koalas.
Bats.
Yeah, bats even have been lost in huge numbers. And bats eat mosquitoes.
Yeah, so everything has a job, including the rat and your native mice, and because they feed the birds of prey. It's just
Like I say, when you take an imbalance, like if you had, for some reason, all the carnivores died off, well, you'd have an explosion of marsupials,
yeah.
insects.
Yes, I am too, Mel. But don't get me wrong. There's always there's such good that's come out. But I tell you what, Mel, there's been a couple of arseholes. Like the
We are one, but we are many. Keep going.
I don't know the rest of the words.
From around this world we come. I am, you are, we are Australian. What did Buttercup say?
I don't know, I haven't got that comment yet. Oh, here you go. It's very sad, but kind of gives you hope about. Yeah, there is good ones out there.
I hope humanity, and I'm not talking about governments, I hope humanity takes a very good look at what's happened here. We're a very sparsely populated country, and the impact's been devastating. If any other country gets anything like this, and this coming summer in the Northern Hemisphere, we're not talking about 20 or 30 people dying. We're probably talking in the thousands, through drought, through heat. Heat kills a lot of people in Europe when they have heat waves. Humanity needs to take note. We need to change how we live.
And bring some
The
of
argument about global warming is ridiculous. There's no need to argue. The planet's getting hotter. Should we build cities underground? Why not? Thermal qualities, fire safety.
Well, the Greens have been attacked. I think they'll be changing some of their policies.
Yeah, you're right, Buttercup. What happens when disaster strikes anywhere? And if you're not part of disaster, most people say, oh, well, that's really sad, but it didn't happen to me. This whole thing in Australia has happened to everybody. Everybody's affected. And when it comes, like I say, to a more populated country, God help us. I mean, we're talking... I just cannot imagine if this had happened through Europe, through Russia, through the Balkans, wherever, France, Spain. The death toll would be enormous just through heat, let alone the fire. Our government is in for a rude shock. At the end, probably in 4 to 6 months, as it cools down in this country, people will gather and they will go to the parliaments and they will want metaphoric heads for their guillotines. You don't, like I say, the problem with governments is they are reactive. It's too late to be reactive. All around the world, you cannot afford now to be reactive. You've got to be proactive. If you see something that's obviously occurring and ignore it until something breaks and then just decide to fix it, it costs more, for starters. If you move forward and change how we live and keep people safe, it's a better world. Whether the planet heats up 4 more degrees or 1 more degree, it's hot. And in my lifetime, I've noticed it. So it's not like, oh well, maybe 1,000 years passes and we can do a judgment. No, in my lifetime things have changed. And I've got 10 grandkids, well 9 and a bit, to think about. And when you start thinking, what are they going to be living in?
It's like we've got, what, the next week, 35 degrees or so?
Yeah, I know what you're saying, Buttercup. I look at 2 things. We will try and save a bird. If a bird is too badly injured, I will put it out of its misery. I'm still saving it from pain.
Oh.
We've saved animals before. We had a little magpie here for a while. We used to call him Hoppy because he had
and I miss
1
him.
foot backwards because he got caught in a fence, obviously. And we'd feed him specifically. Nothing we could do. You catch him, you couldn't fix his foot, it was beyond repair.
When it comes
But
to
you can make his life a bit better by giving him a bit of extra food that he wouldn't normally get.
With animals, we're hopeless. I mean, I was about 8 years old and I walked 5 miles with a stray German Shepherd because I felt sorry for him. I save bees. I'll put a bit of water and honey out if I see a bee struggling, and then 90% of the time he picks up and flies off, doesn't he?
Yep. But generally when a bee is spinning on the ground, it's coming to the end of its life.
Yeah, but I've saved a few by putting a bit of honey and water down for him.
I mean, most mosquitoes only live for about a month and a half.
That's too long.
Well, it's enough for them to do damage.
Same as flies.
No, flies don't live that long, I don't think.
At 24 hours, but that's beside the point. They're annoying. But
Oh
again,
no, more than 24 hours, but not a long time.
they feed something, I suppose.
The thing about private estates, it's the body corporate. Did you know that Buttercup's been feeding Hedgehog? Right, let's read her the Riot Act, and if she doesn't do the right thing, well, first of all, we won't talk to her, and then we'll get a committee together, and another committee, and a subcommittee, and we'll make sure she doesn't feed the hedgehogs. Yeah.
So
I can imagine, I know what my response would be.
So you're not allowed to feed the hedgehogs, or all I say to people when you feed wildlife, please feed them the correct food. For a start, you really shouldn't take bread and go give that to the ducks in the pond, unless you're going to wet it.
Unless it's breadcrumbs, it's dried.
And wet, it's because otherwise it swells, so... Go Buttercup.
The world has become very inhumane, not just to each other, but to everything else.
I know, but just got to think there is still good. Just put the good thoughts out there, positive.
George, I mean, I've spoken about George Carline before. He was a comedian. He's passed on now, but he used to say some really smart things. And I mean, I don't want this to happen, but he said, "Look, what we need on this planet is a massive pandemic. We need to get rid of about 5 billion people, and then most of our problems would evaporate."
Yeah, Mother Nature takes care of that.
Which is a cruel way for it to occur, but imagine if 2/3 of the planet disappeared. There wouldn't be any more housing crisis, there'd be no food crisis. we'd have to rearrange how we live.
But you can see it when we go to the shop every day. Is stocks are changed. There's less, or you can't get something, and we're just changing our way of eating because, well, we're fine. But you notice in Coles today how low the stock was.
Yeah, I mean, everything's been affected, even supply of different types of foods from areas that have been severely affected by fire. And some can't get out, the transport's not been able to get in.
That's right.
Same with badgers, I imagine, Buttercup.
Also with mealworms, you know, they've got like a little pincher. It's like if we were to feed the magpies mealworm, which is fine, what we actually have to do first is clip the end off their mouth, the clipper or whatever it is, because as the magpie swallows it, it can actually latch onto their throat. So
there's a guy I knew used to collect crickets and grasshoppers, and his magpies come every morning. He'd have like half a dozen he'd catch, and that's what they eat. But he used to just throw it on the ground like it's half dead, not quite dead. So that's what they eat. But magpies will eat meat as well.
Yeah, but again, you can't just give them raw meat. It's got to be frozen or so for 3 days to make sure everything's been killed in the meat, whatever. You've got to make up a special mix. So have they got the hedgehogs under protection, Buttercup? Like if they're getting extinct, are they protecting them?
Hedgehogs, unfortunately in the UK, are the most common carcass on the road, let's be honest, along with badgers, birds. They don't have as much roadkill as we have, but fortunately a lot of winding roads where badgers trying to cross. People don't get time.
Remember that show we watched once? I think it might have been, I love the Doc Martin, where he had to treat someone who was sick, and it's because they were eating roadkill, and they were eating, there's something in a badger that can make you sick or something. Oh, so they're going to protect them? Do you remember that show with Doc Martin? Those people were eating roadkill?
Yep.
And
But what VMAC's saying is quite true.
Yeah.
Animals become extinct mainly because of man, but there is a natural attrition of extinction. It's not, the planet has always had animals and plants go extinct due to circumstances in their environment. But also man has also contributed to the extinction of animals. Australia has the classic. We had what we called a Tasmanian tiger, which was a bit like a dingo, but more like a wolf. And they put bounties on it in the early part of last century.
Because it was killing livestock.
And it was gone by 1926.
And they learnt their lesson from that one, didn't they?
Well, even human species, we are not the sum of one species as we speak today. Anthropologists say that there's probably been 15 major species of humanoid, different types. The classic one we all know is that Homo erectus, or us, was alive with Neanderthal not that long ago. But even the DNA in humans varies all over the planet, and we have in all of us a mixture of all 15 species. So they're all banging at some stage, is what I'm saying.
You saw a flash.
Did you?
Yeah, you didn't see that flash?
No. I was talking to Eva.
Yes, it's yeah, because of the ranches, yeah. Oh, I love wolves.
Wolves, for me, are part of a food chain that needs to be there, or you have an explosion of the lesser marsupials.
Yeah, rabbits and stuff, eh?
Well, Canada has a great variety of different marsupials, and they would just explode. And some of those marsupials are semi-carnivorous as well.
Well, I don't think there'll be any culling of kangaroos. It's another thing people don't understand about Australia, that once a year, isn't it? They cull
No, it goes all year round.
all year. Well, yeah, certain times.
6 to 7 million kangaroos are killed to keep the others alive. I'm going to tell you what you said is not true, because what will happen, they'll have to cull more because there is not any food left
Food
in
for
those
them,
areas.
yeah. Because they
So
even,
sadly, our cull may be in the 20 million mark.
but mind you, we've got 60 million kangaroos. Well, we had, 60 million.
On average, there's always 65 million. It's a balance they
Yeah.
try and keep. But when bushfire wipes out their habitat,
Yeah,
they actually have to increase the cull for those that are around to survive.
yeah. It's
Hello, farmer fanatic. So it's like I say, the impact is unfolding. The devastation's occurred, and it's still going. We're still not in our middle of summer. It's 2 weeks away. So we're bracing for
moose.
more fires.
Wow. What was the problem with the moose, VMAC?
Numbers, I guess.
Oh, that's good, Buttercup. They do that here too in places, build. But think about it. It's okay if you can get the animal to use those things that they build for them, but an animal's not going to read a sign and say, well, you must cross here. But I know what you mean. There is certain parts of certain areas that an animal migrate.
All right, I'm going to have to end this broadcast because I've run out of time, but I will start another one, and I will just head it, I don't know, I'll give it a name like bushfire or something. I'll be back in about 4 to 5 minutes.